Hey there, everybody. It's Paul Carruthers, and this is Off Track, MotoAmerica's weekly podcast. You just got introduced. We just got introduced by Jonathan Green, so you probably know all that. But I want to bring my cohort, Sean Bice, into the conversation. Sean, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I've been out in our woods building an ark here. The Bible says that the ark was made out of gopher wood. I don't have any of that, but I'm trying to use whatever I can come up with because it is raining it like crazy, and it has been for so long. Luckily, I'm up on a hill, but it's been nuts. I can't get over how much rain we've had this spring.
So a little different than our Utah weather.
Yeah, yeah, completely opposite. When I was there, I remember hearing from other people. Some people get, I guess it's called altitude sickness. You've probably heard of that. I actually feel better when I go there. It's almost like everything feels clearer, and I don't know. I just like to go there because it really does kind of help my state of mind as well as my state of well being a little bit. I don't know. I there's no humidity, and it's just nice for me.
Yeah, it doesn't affect me if I when I've cycled there and stuff before, it's had a little bit of an effect. It just gets me worn out quicker, but like
Yeah.
just hanging at the track and stuff all day didn't seem to have an effect on me. But the racing sure was good there.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. I mean, I could not believe it when we switched to that East course. I mean, it was certainly an unknown for all of us, but it seems like every rider I talked to said they really loved it, had a lot of fun, and just to have them right in front of us on that side of the track and the drama in each class. I mean, it was close racing. It was very exciting to see. So I was thrilled as can be for what we had.
Yeah, from a selfish standpoint, I'd have to say that I liked it better than the big course. I liked the fact that, like you said, they raced directly in front of us, and it was nice being able to watch turn one instead of them just taking off. And then obviously you can watch it on the monitors or whatever, but it's always nice to watch it, more in person. But yeah, I liked the course. I thought it looked like a lot of work from a rider standpoint, and like they said, there wasn't much rest there. At least before on the big track, they'd have that long straightaway where they could. Shoot, you could almost take a nap on that thing. So I thought it was really good. I thought it was kind of cool because it was kind of hard to pass, but they all made it work. I mean, they all found their spots, and it was kind of good because they had to take a bit of risk actually when they made those passes, so it kind of made it more exciting when you knew one was coming.
Yeah, it was funny when we talked to Tony. I think in one of the press conferences, he had said how narrow the track is and there's not a lot of passing. But man, I mean, I didn't get a sense of that at all because they were definitely dicing in every single class. I felt like so, including Junior Cup, which was those were both exciting races too. So that continues to be a really cool class for us to watch.
Yeah, and that brings us to our guest today, who, actually, if you look at the season from the first round in Atlanta to our fourth round there at or our fifth round there at Utah. I mean, it'd be hard not to argue that this kid's actually been pretty much the sensation of the season so far, and I'm talking about Rocco Landers. We've had 8 races, and he's won 6 of those. Finished second in the other one, which was actually the last race we had, which was race 2 in at Utah Motorsports Campus, where he finally got beaten by Dallas Daniels, who has given him fits. I mean, actually, I was on the phone earlier today with Wayne Rainey, and I told him we were going to have Rocco on, and he said, it's like really the way that class has turned out this year is the perfect example of what the class was designed for. You've got 2 young guys in that class, and they've both elevated each other's riding, and it's turned into a nice little rivalry. And all the races have been close, except Rocco sort of had their number at Road Atlanta there when we got the season started. But ever since then, Dallas has kind of kicked it in gear, and I think he's got a target, and that target is Rocco. And as you've seen of late, those two have just have battled back and forth, and Rocco's had the upper hand in 6 of those races, but that last one, went to Dallas. And again, I don't know what the margin was. It was something ridiculous, like 0.010 or something. But Rocco's put together a good little season for himself, and he has a 21 point lead in the series. The only little hiccup he had in his season was wet race at VIR, where he finished 11th. So other than that, I mean, he's been pretty brilliant. And I didn't know a lot about this kid. I heard he was coming, and I heard good things about him. But you tend to do that every year. You hear about some hot young kid that's going to come in and do the business. Well, this kid definitely did come in and do the business. So why don't we bring Rocco into the conversation? I imagine it's afternoon there for you, Rocco. So happy afternoon to you.
Yo, how you guys doing?
We're doing good. We heard you're actually doing you're doing this in the front seat of your dad's truck because that's where the best reception is, and you're not even old enough to drive that damn truck, are you?
No, I guess not. I mean, not if you told the cops.
do you do you ever try to drive it when nobody's looking, Rocco?
No, I still gotta wait 2 years for that.
Okay. Okay. Actually, how does it work? You're from Oregon, so can you get a permit before you're 16?
Well, you can get a permit when you're 15, but you have to be driving with an adult from your family.
Right?
But you get your license when you're 16, like the other states.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be the type of kid that's at your 16th birthday at the DMV getting that license, or does it not you don't care that much about it? Because I know some kids now are like, oh, we don't even care about getting our license anymore.
I think that might be me.
Really, it's nice to have someone shuttle you around.
Yep, I actually learned how to drive a car when I was 8 years old because I live on a ranch. So it was always free. Like I was able to do it like the field. So I learned how to drive really young.
So it's not a
So,
big deal.
so Rocco, I have to ask you, and I'm not going to say this is necessarily a problem that Paul has, but regarding your stature, is it hard for you to drive a car? Because you're still fairly, well, you're diminutive. Let me put it that way. Is it hard for you to see over the wheel?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm 5'5", so I mean I'm a fairly normal sized person, I'd say maybe. But
Yeah,
it was
you are.
hard, smaller.
Just do what I did. I used to have a pillow there for a while, but only for a
That
year
was
or
what I
two.
did. Yeah, I used to stack up. What I'd do
Yeah.
is I'd literally like stack up like 2x4s or boards, and then I'd put pillows on top of that, and then that's what I'd drive with.
Yeah, and
Wow.
meanwhile, Sean's piping in with how short we are. I don't, Rocco. I don't. You've seen Sean. He doesn't look like he's that tall to me that he could be mouthing off to us like this. Do you think?
Yeah,
Well, let's
maybe.
put it this way. I'm kind of square, Paul. I'm sort of as wide as I am tall, so
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's what makes you look shorter.
I'm cubic. Yeah. So, but Rocco, speaking of driving or riding, so how old were you, and what did you ride for a motorcycle the very first time?
My first ride is a hilarious story. I think I was 2.5, and I was on a
Wow.
PW 50 with training wheels. And so what I did was I did not know what I was doing. It was right after I learned how to ride my bicycle. I was still like a noob, I guess. And so I got on this thing and I just pinned it. And so my mom literally grabbed my. I was maybe going 20 miles an hour. And I was about to hit a car because we were in a parking lot. And my mom got so scared and grabbed the back of my motocross jersey and basically pulled me off the bike, and the bike hit a tree. It was
Oh, wow.
Oh no.
experience. I don't even remember it, but I was
Oh.
told when I was like 5 that was what happened.
Well, thank God for mom.
Yeah.
So you don't remember it. You were 2.5. I claim to remember some things when I was 3, but
Yeah, I just feel like I might have been a little bit too young. I remember when I was first learning actually how to ride without training wheels. That's about the last time I remember riding a bike. First time actually.
Wow. And then how much after the whole learning experience of riding did you actually start racing the thing?
I got the training wheels off just before I turned 3, and I was just like putting around on the in the parking lot. My first thing was I think when I was like 3.5 or 4, I rode without my hands on the handlebars, so that made me happy. And then my first time on a street bike, was a little pocket bike. I rode at Grange Motor Circuit when I was almost 5, and I got my knee down. That was made me so happy.
Did you spend any time with motocross, or did you always was it always pavement stuff?
Well, I mean, occasionally I would go to like maybe like a little Pee-wee motocross track, but that was never my thing. My thing was always skid pads. I would always do skid pads. I try to lean it over and skim the foot peg. I'm like a street rider through and through.
Wow. Do you remember the first time you rode a bike that you actually had to use a clutch and shift on it? And how did that go?
Looped it. My dad told me my dad told me I had to give it a lot of gas to make it go, so I just pinned it and I slipped the clutch. That was a Suzuki DS80.
So you went over backwards?
Yep. And then the second time I just dumped the clutch. Took me like 5 tries to even start going. It was I'd say it was probably humiliating was the right word for that.
Yeah. Heck, I think we've all been through that, Rocco. I mean, heck, I started riding a shifter a lot later than you did, and I was thinking maybe if you were younger, maybe it caught on quicker. But I think that applying the clutch properly and not, looping it or chugging it out off the line or something, it definitely takes a while to get used to how to shift. But clearly, you don't have a problem with that anymore.
Yeah, not really. But it was actually a different experience for me because what I did was I actually got on a shifter bike when I was 5. It was the DS80. It was when I started using the clutch. Then I got on an NSR 50, and my dad got a KTM 65 for me to ride in the dirt because I was I don't know. But he also wanted to put street tires on, and I rode that. But when I was 8, I got a legit 65. That was my first supermoto bike. But when I was 8 actually, we went and raced pocket bikes in Italy, and my dad actually pulled me from shifter bikes and any bike except a pocket bike, and I rode the pocket bike all year. I had to get used to the clutch again, so I wound up looping it a couple more times after that.
Wow.
Well, yeah, your dad raced, but my question is, was he finished racing by the time he started working with you, or were you actually around when he was still racing?
He finished racing the year before I was born, so
Oh, okay.
he did one track day after I was born, and then he occasionally would go to the mini track. Like he did that like 3 times. So he'd go to the mini track and ride my 85, but that would just be for fun. And it was like, and then recently when we were at VIR, he rode one of the California Superbike School's BMW, and he just had a blast. It was great.
Wow, that's cool. So Rocco, you have a pretty good connection. Speaking of California Superbike School, you have a connection with Keith Code. We saw him. I think it was at VIR that he was there and got to see you. Of course, they were doing the school there, and you mentioned your dad riding at the time. And it sounds like obviously you know Keith pretty well, and probably know Travis Wyman a little bit, who teaches at that school. Tell us about that.
Well, my dad was actually the first 4-star coach, which is the highest level of training that this school had. I mean, my dad was like an original coach for Keith, and then and my dad's always been good friends with Keith, and so I mean, and the Superbike School was a sponsor of my dad's when he raced. So my dad's always had a great relationship with them, and Keith like has helped us out with schools here and there. And this year he's really helped us out with schools, like for helping us out learning tracks, and helped us with getting connections for boots and gloves from Alpine Stars. And he's just like the bomb to have around. He does so much awesome stuff for us. He's great.
Yeah, that must be really good. Now, do you know Travis Wyman, who teaches at the school?
Yeah, I do know. I know him very well. We've done like off-track drills at the school together. Like he's been my coach on the off-track drills, and I often go out and hang out with him when we're at the races, and I watch his races, and sometimes he'll watch mine with me. And so it's also great to see him also in MotoAmerica. So
Yeah.
it's a great bunch of people.
Yeah, it's a nice little family out there, huh?
Oh, big time.
Hey, what so you've spent some time in Europe. How many racing seasons were you in Europe?
I was there for kind of like at 3/4 of a year in 2013 for the pocket bikes, and then I did the full season of 2016, 17, and 18. I did Italy in 2013 and 16, and I raced in Spain in the 85cc championship in 17 and 18.
Wow. And I've also noticed that you're I don't know if you're fluent in Spanish, but if you're not, you're pretty damn close. So, is that something is that something you learned in school, or is it something you taught yourself?
I actually I taught myself kind of with it wasn't not really myself, but it was more like I was studying by myself on an app called Rosetta Stone on my phone. So I would do an
Right.
hour a day on that, and it took me maybe 2 years or so, and I was getting pretty close to being fluent. And towards the end of last year, and I'd say I speak it quite well. And I'm starting to forget it, so I'm gonna have to get back into studying it. But like I can talk to Kevin Olmedo and other
Right. That's where I
Spanish
first
riders.
Yeah, that's where I first learned that you could do that, because when we were driving in the
Yeah.
golf cart at Road America, I heard you guys talking in the back, and I'm like, wait, I didn't know I didn't know he was capable of doing that as well.
That's
So
pretty
it was
Yeah.
good.
kind of funny because Dallas
Sometimes
Daniels was in the front next to me, and we were both laughing that you're actually able to speak Spanish. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, like when me and Sean D. Kelly want to like trash talk people, but we don't want them to know, we just try talking Spanish. It's easy.
That's
Hey,
perfect.
so Rocco, I need to ask you, when we did our podcast, we did a video one at Utah, whether you saw it or not, but it was with Tony Elias, and he said that he was talking. He said that after he won his MotoGP race, I think in 2006, he beat Valentino, and Valentino rolled down a window in his RV the next morning. They were parked next to each other, and he referred to him as a cabron, which apparently is that a good thing or not a good thing?
It depends. If Valentino was joking, it's like, dude, crazy.
Okay. Okay.
Kind of like calling him a. If he was serious, that's not really a good thing. But if he was if he was like if he wasn't being serious, it's kind of like saying you goofball.
Okay.
Yeah.
How
Well,
about
we'll make sure when you call us that you're joking.
All right, yeah, it
yeah,
does try to do that. Yeah,
Rocco? I don't know if you know this or not. You might. Have you ever talked to Garrett Gerloff? Garrett Gerloff can speak pretty fluent Spanish.
yeah.
And
Me
have
and
you
him
ever
have talked in
spoken to him?
Spanish together.
What's that? Say it again.
Me and him have talked in Spanish together. Yeah,
That's pretty good.
yeah.
I
Funny
like.
story about Garrett. When we were at VIR, he was munching a box of Cheez-Its. And then I said if he qualifies on pole in VIR, I'll get him a box of Cheez-Its. So when he did, I got him a box of Cheez-Its at Road America.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, good boy.
Pretty
Yeah.
funny.
It's funny because a lot of times when I see the podium celebrations for the other classes, and Paul, you've probably seen this too. We'll be sitting there, and all of a sudden, well, there's Rocco Landers going around high fiving all the other riders and stuff. You seem to really embrace and enjoy getting being around the riders at the podium and being all part of that culture. Would you say that's right?
Yeah. Yeah, really. I mean, I really believe in being a good sport. Like on obviously you'll be a little bit disappointed if you don't win or if it's close, but I think you should always I really think you should be a good sport no matter what.
Yeah,
And I think
that's a
rivalries
nice,
are cool, but you should butt heads on track, but maybe off track you should be friends.
great
Good
attitude.
attitude.
Yeah, that's very good.
So I've got a question for you. It's well, actually I mentioned it early in the show before we even pulled you on, but don't you think it's don't you think it's a good thing that you and Dallas have each other? I mean, the way things are going right now, I mean, Kevin's also been close, but I mean, the Dallas has been the closest. And if you didn't have somebody like Dallas, you'd be so far out in front that obviously it wouldn't be as much fun. In addition to the fact that you wouldn't learn as much about actually racecraft and things like that. So it's a nice treat for us, obviously as spectators, to be able to watch you guys battle. But it's got to be a good thing for you two as well. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. Like in Like, I'd say right now, as of right now, I'd say me and Dallas probably the top two, and Kevin's coming up with us. But like in Atlanta, the races, honestly, even for me, were kind of boring because I had a gap and there wasn't much happening.
Right.
But I think when there's two people who are pushing each other, we're both going to go much faster than we go if there wasn't one of us.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now, when you showed up at Road Atlanta, and that first race was just such a dominant win. Did you have any clue coming into that race that you were going to be able to do that? Did you expect to do that, or was it a surprise to you that you were so dominant?
It was a surprise that I was that dominant. I judging off my qualifying times, I expected to maybe win by a couple seconds, but dude, 16.2 seconds was crazy. When I heard Jonathan Green saying in the Park Firm when I'd won by 16 seconds, I was like, haha, good joke. I thought he was like,
Right.
I thought maybe sarcastic. Then I read the results sheet, or in the press conference you said, 16 seconds. I was like, what? 16 seconds?
Right.
So that was
Okay,
a very big surprise for me.
My actual question is, I can understand after qualifying, right, that you would think, okay, I've got a pretty good chance. I'm talking about driving to Atlanta. You've never even ridden against a lot of the guys in the class. You haven't ridden in that class at all. Going to Atlanta, like from your house, and you're going to Atlanta, at that point in time, how confident are you that you can run at the front?
I actually wasn't sure. I was like, we actually left our house 2 weeks before because we went to Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. But leaving our house, I was like, okay, I think I'm probably gonna mop it up at Chuckwalla because there aren't gonna be any like MotoAmerica guys there. And then I leave Chuckwalla and I'm like, okay, what's gonna happen? So we had a 3-day drive and we're like, the whole time I was just thinking about Road Atlanta, just watching video on Road Atlanta. And so I got there and I had memorized the corners. And I was like, oh, that works. Then we went out in rain practice number 1 and I got to know the track and I was able to put down some good laps. And then I was able to qualify on pole. So on the way, it was like, I don't know. If I could be as prepared as possible, I think I can win by a decent margin. Like 16.2 seconds hadn't even crossed my mind.
Right.
So that was, I did not expect to win by that much.
So in that class, this is what I can't figure out. In that class, it's different than it was when it was RC Cup, when it was all the same bike. But, I mean, there's a couple of Yamahas in there and there's a Honda. But for the most part, it is almost a little bit of a spec class with the Kawasaki's. And I mean, I know you guys have a little more of displacement with that Ninja 400. So, but you're amongst a bunch of other Kawasaki riders. What do you attribute to your ability to do what you're doing on it? What is essentially a bike prepared just like the other ones? I mean, I don't know how do you make the difference? Is it corner speed? What are you doing that the other riders aren't doing? And I'm not asking you to give away any secrets, but what is it about your riding, do you think?
Well, my bike is actually stock. The motor is stock, except for we have we have modified like a transmission that's more race prepped. And we have a pipe, obviously, but my bike is stock. But I've spent 4 years in Europe paying my dues, much heavier than the other riders. So that's trained me to have to run a lot of high corner speed. So I think that could be a good thing for me in the Junior Cup because I'm able to carry a lot higher lean angle and more corner speed. But yeah, I'd say having to pay my dues in Europe has helped a lot with corner speed. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're out there, you seem to understand. I know they call it in Europe more slipstreaming, but the idea of the draft and kind of where to stay behind somebody and when to pull out is that would you say that's a tool in your toolbox, your ability to draft riders?
I don't know. I think I can draft probably just as well as anyone. Like in Europe, drafting is so important, and yeah, no one will understand. Even when I talk with British riders, no one will understand when I said draft. They'd always say what. So
Slipstream.
Yeah, But yeah, I think I can draft just as well as the next guy, and I try to have the bet. I try to see like how far I can go in the draft so I can pull out. But other than that, there's really much to say about the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the Road Atlanta round, after that first win, I think we talked about, what your future plans are. And I know at that point in time, anyway, your future plan is you want to get back to Europe as quickly as you can. If you did stay in MotoAmerica, obviously you would have to ride for another year before you could go to 600s or another class when you turn 16. But is that still your plan? Is your plan to try to get back to Europe next year?
Yes, definitely. Like next year, we're gonna try to maybe get a little bit last year. It was my dad spending his money and just digging so deep and putting everything out, just working so hard for me. He was working so hard. It was really hard for him. But this year, we had a choice between racing the European Talent Cup or the MotoAmerica, and we decided to go with the one that would give us the most, like maybe attention and help us get the most support for the next year. So we went with MotoAmerica. And next year we're going to try to get some support and head back over to Europe in either the Moto3 Junior World Championship or the European Talent Cup.
Oh, okay.
Does the bike that you're riding now, what does it feel like to you? Does it feel like it's slow to you? Do you feel like it's a handful? Where do compared to the way you've raced in the past or what you're planning to race on, what does it feel like to be on that bike?
Actually, the 400 is the highest powered bike I've ever raced.
Okay.
I've only ridden I've raced two strokes my entire life, and I rode an I raced an RS 125 in club racing, but the highest powered bike I've raced is the 400. Like, I've ridden an RSV4 RF once, which is actually my dream bike, so that was great, but that's the biggest bike I've ever ridden. But race is always the 400 for me so far.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, Paul. I was thinking about this the other day. My first bike was an RD 350, and I know Larry Lawrence, who has a thing called Rider Files. He had done a thing where he had I think it was a Kawasaki Ninja 400 sitting next to an RD 350, the same year, the one that I had as my first bike, and I still have it. And I remember getting on that bike when I was, I don't know, 16, and I felt like, man, that bike seemed really big to me. But a Ninja 400 sitting next to a 350, RD 350 of that era, that Ninja 400 looks like a gigantic motorcycle. It's amazing that it's considered entry level. And I know they're fairly small in the grand scheme of things, but it's still a lot bigger than what we considered almost a middleweight back, when we kind of got involved in riding and stuff. So that's a handful of a bike as it is, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, mine is 48 horsepower without the restrictor. Not quite sure what it is with the restrictor, but it's one of the easiest to ride bikes. It's so comfy. It's
It's got to be a lot more forgiving, I would think, than what you've ridden.
Oh yeah, like I've ridden like the choppy GP bikes that don't take bumps at all, and this thing just is it's like riding a couch.
Yeah, that's funny.
See, Sean, you ought to get one because you know how to ride a couch.
I was going to say,
good.
geez, I got to get that for sure because that's what I do all day. So, so the bike itself. Let's talk a little bit, somewhat about some of your sponsors because I last year had gotten in touch with the guy that runs Ninja400R.com, which I believe is Jeremy Toy, who I know Paul knows, and he's been around a lot. He's a good racer, probably one of the fastest riders among mechanics in the paddock, and he works with the M4 team. Is that who you deal with as far as that sponsor goes? And do you get any input from him at the track?
Yeah, he's our guy for sure through Ninja 400. But he and my dad go back a long way racing in like WSMC. We're just back in the day, like in '90s, racing then. Him and my dad go back back racing. So my dad and him have been friends for a while, and last year when I was in Europe, we were watching Junior Cup races, and we were thinking about doing like maybe some Chuckwalla this off season and some MotoAmerica wildcards this year, because back then our plan was racing in Europe again. But so we were thinking about what bike to ride, and I was like, we should run. My dad actually was like, we should run Kawasaki, and my dad said, well, I have a connection with Jeremy, and then basically a couple phone calls, and then we were at Chuckwalla for the first round, just trying the bike out, and I kind of fell in love with it. It was super fun. Able to win all the races I entered that weekend on the bike, and we went from there, and we started to get more serious with that bike, and we set some lap records at Chuckwalla the next round, and then we decided to make the decision to go do MotoAmerica, and we bought our own 400, and that's what we've been racing since. So, and Jeremy, speaking of Jeremy, he does help us out at the track. Like, you can see him on the grid with us. He'll be helping me with suspension, and at the club races he helps us out. So he's great. He's such a good dude.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of good things about him. He's been around, like I said, a while. Who is Dr. Farr? One of your sponsors?
Yeah, he's an orthopedic surgeon from the Bay Area. We met him at Chuckwalla. We met a lot of our dudes at Chuckwalla, but he's an orthopedic surgeon. So he's I met him at Chuckwalla through actually a lady who is just super nice, and she went and introduced me to him, and then me and him talked and exchanged phone numbers with my dad and him, and now he's helping us out.
Yeah, that's really good that you have that support. Why do you run the number 97? I think you used to run 96, and more than that is why did you run the 96?
96 was my number. I wanted my own number, so I went 96.
Okay.
And this year 96 was taken, and then I was like, oh, I want 5, because 5 was the first number I ever had in BMX racing when I was 4. And then and 5, and I actually wanted 05 because I was born in 2005.
Yeah.
So I wanted 05, then I found out I couldn't have that. Then I wanted 95, and then I couldn't have that. And then the next thing up the closest to 96 was 97, so I just went with 97.
See, I didn't know if you had 96 because I've seen some photos of your bike when you were 96 in other classes of racing, and you used to have a lot of Nicky Hayden. You'd have the 69 there. I didn't know if you had 96 because it's 69 backwards. Does that have anything to do with it at all?
No, I was 96 since 2015, racing flat. I wanted a funny story. I've been in so many different numbers, but I wanted a 96 in road racing that year, but it was taken, so I went with 72, which was my dad's number when he raced. And then I was 96 in flat track since 2015. Then I did that in 2016, and then we realized, and we had our own font before. Then Nicky Hayden passed away. It was super sad because my dad knew Nicky pretty well because they raced together, and so we decided to run Nicky's font.
That's cool. Yeah, so I thought it had some connection. It actually did look like his number just transposed. So thanks for explaining that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So Rocco, going forward this year for the remaining rounds, have you raced at any of the tracks we're going to? Like, have you raced at Sonoma or something?
No, I've ridden at Laguna and New Jersey, but New Jersey was kind of. It wasn't the best day because it was the track gets really slimy when it gets wet, and it was like a wet, dry day, so we weren't able to really do much. But I was able to learn the track, so I know Laguna and Sonoma, and Barber. Barber's great.
And you haven't had much trouble learning tracks that you haven't been to anyway.
No, not particularly. I've always been a fairly quick learner on tracks, so it's even a bigger advantage when I know the track already. Like Barber's probably my favorite track I've ever been to so far, and I rode that a couple months ago. So I'm excited for every round, but especially Barber.
Do you see that? Have you noticed a difference in Dallas? I mean, does he? Obviously, the races have been close, but it seems like he keeps getting closer and closer, and then finally did win one. Have you noticed an improvement in his speed and in his riding since you guys have started together at Road Atlanta?
Yeah, it seems like when we're together, we both go faster. But yeah, he's been like in Road Atlanta. It wasn't super close. Then VIR he actually was faster at both practice and qualifying. And then it was super close at MotoAmerica, and then it was super close in race 1 at Utah, and then he got me in race 2 at Utah. But I cannot take anything away from him. He's been riding super well this whole season. I'm happy for him that he got his win. Obviously, I would have liked to win that race, but I can't take anything away from him. And we had some things going on behind the scene in Utah, but we have those things worked out for Laguna. So.
Well, that's good.
I'm happy for Dallas.
Laguna's got to be Laguna's got to be one you're looking forward to race in front of an international audience, and it's a pretty big event for us.
Yep, and might have our new leathers for then. We might, hopefully.
Oh, good. I thought I was gonna have to buy you some there for a minute. I told Sean at the last race. I'm like, okay, these leathers got to go. He goes, don't worry, Paul. I've got new ones coming.
Yeah, we have the set that you've been complaining about. We have them being repaired right now, and we have some new ones being made, which are more team colored.
Rocco, when we get to Laguna, since you've raced in Europe, are there any people or team people, riders, anybody that you might know and be able to reunite with when you get there? I know it's a big country, but is there anybody in the paddock that you might be looking forward to seeing there?
Well, I don't really know particularly any of the World Superbike guys.
Okay.
But that would be the only one that I'd be able to see, but I'm super, super good friends with one of the World Supersport 300 riders who was there was a guy named Jordy Grinnell who, he was our engine tuner last year, just the nicest dude. But he was the engine tuner for this kid who's now in Supersport 300. This kid did the championship I did last year, a couple years before. And he would help me out, but he was such a good dude. You might know him. His name is Ferran Hernandez Moyano.
Yeah, I've heard the name.
He's in World Supersport 300. And if he was there, that would be great, but he's... I also know Jules Danilo.
Oh, yeah.
I also know him from Spain.
That's cool. Did you know Damian Jigalov? I guess is how you pronounce his last name. I had been pronouncing it wrong for about a year now. Did you know Damian before this?
Yeah. I met him in 2016 once at an endurance race for MiniGP. And then I met him. Then I saw him again at the Rookie Cup tryouts last year. But I didn't really know him until this year.
And how about Sam Lockoff? Did you know him at all, or Dominic Doyle?
No, I didn't met either of them.
Okay. I'm name dropping here, but I wanted to, it just kind of makes me think of some people. So Keith Code helped out Joe Roberts a lot. Have you ever ridden with him or know Joe at all?
Oh, yeah. Me and him in Spain, we trained together all the time.
Yeah, that's cool. So Keith's still helping out Joe a little bit then. I didn't know that.
Another rider I wanted to give a shout out to is Brendan Kettleson. He's my best friend in the whole world.
Yeah.
Me and him have been racing together for 10 years.
That's cool.
I've known him for literally like 2.5 years.
I had talked to Garrett Willis about him last year. I think Garrett works with him if I'm not mistaken, but I knew he was coming into the series, and he's a nice kid. I like him a lot too. That's cool that you guys are friends.
Great. Yeah, he's literally my best friend
That's great.
in the whole world.
You seem to be pretty good buddies with Drake Beecham too. I see you hanging around with him, which is funny because now that he's up, tell us about that.
I actually only met him at Atlanta, and then I talked to him. I like briefly talked to him in Atlanta in GIR, and then at Wisconsin, me and him were like, I went and hung out with his mom, or his cousin wanted to take a photo with me and Drake, and then so I went over and I hung out. Then me and him were like Insta pals,
Yeah.
instant pals, and then then we were hanging out, and then that weekend he dared me to be his umbrella guy because he said he didn't have one, so he dared me to be his. So then his dad asked me if I wanted to wear a checkered suit. So I was wearing a checkered suit. Next thing I do on Twins Cup when on Drake's on the day Drake got his first win, I was his umbrella guy at Twins Cup, and he told me to rub some good luck off on him. So I rubbed some off. He won his race. Great.
That's terrific. You know what?
He's making you do it every race now or not?
No, I mean we're trying to come up with new suits every couple of races. So he's gonna be my umbrella guy. Like last round, he had an American flag suit, and he was my umbrella guy. And last round, I had a $100 suit, a suit that was like covered in $100 bills.
That's cool. You know, I didn't realize when I saw you guys hanging around together quite a bit in Wisconsin, because I went over to check on Drake and talk to his dad quite a bit. I'm quite fond of that family, and I saw you over there, and I didn't realize either. I was like, wow, I didn't know you guys even knew each other, let alone were that good friends. So you kind of just became fast friends. That's good that you've struck up such a friendship like that so quickly. Kind of speaks to our paddock. When you were over in Europe, of course you were younger, but do you have that kind of ability to get around and kind of be friends with the other riders like you do in MotoAmerica?
I don't know. I guess so. Like as soon as when a new rider would come to the championship, even if it was like mid-season or a wild card, I'd always try to go up and introduce myself.
That's good.
I'd try to be nice.
That's nice.
Like I try to be as friendly as possible.
Yeah, that's good.
He always remembers my name, Sean.
That's like the way Corey Ventura always used to. Well, still does. Thank you, Paul.
I know. No, those two boys are pretty similar. They're both very polite. So their parents have done a good job.
Paul?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's quick.
You're gonna get smacked around now.
That's good.
He's still upset about my leathers comment.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to feel. I mean, now that we're going to go to Laguna and Sonoma, it's got to feel pretty good for you being from Oregon. That you don't have to travel quite as far. And then we've been hearing rumors. Not sure if it's going to happen or not. But there's well, of course, you probably won't be racing our series, but maybe we'll have a race up in the Pacific Northwest, not in Oregon, but maybe in the state of Washington or something. But it's got to be nicer to be a little closer to home with these tracks, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, my home track is Sonoma.
Okay.
Actually. So, but it's great to have two West Coast rounds, so it's not. So at least we don't have such a long drive for a couple of the rounds.
Yeah.
So you and your dad have been driving all the rounds, right?
Actually, we visited family in Oregon, in actually Missouri, in between a couple of the rounds. So we would just kind of park our trailer there, and we would either fly back or just stay there and hang out and see family.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that cuts down the driving a bit. Yeah, that's cool.
I have two sisters and one brother and my mom, so we all come out to the races.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tell us.
Deal.
I met your mom at Utah. Jamie is her name, right?
Yep.
And what are your brothers and sisters' names?
There's Diesel, who's my brother, he's 7. There's Farah, who's my sister, she's 10. Then there's Bo, who's my sister, who's 12.
Is it Beau?
No, it's just Bo.
Oh, it is? That's pretty.
Kept
That's
it
pretty
simple.
awesome. We didn't.
Fun fact: she is my favorite person to irritate.
Well, hey, does she like? And how about vice versa?
Yeah, big
Okay,
time.
that's good. You always have to have one in the family, I guess, right? That you can irritate.
Of course, yeah, of
That's
course.
cool.
As long as this goes back and forth.
So I want to throw a name out there, just because I'm thinking of Oregon, where you're from. Do you know who Rob Muzzy is, and have you ever met him?
My dad knew him. I haven't met him.
That's cool.
I've heard of him, but I haven't met him.
I don't know if you're anywhere near Bend at all, where he's from. Is Bend, Oregon, anything you? I don't know where that town is at all.
Yeah, we live about an hour and a half from Bend.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's right across the border from California. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
We're in southeastern Oregon.
Yeah, and Bend is right across the border, from what I understand. So that's why Sonoma's your home track. It's not really all that far for you. How far is it?
About 4.5, maybe 5 hours.
Okay.
Actually, no, it's probably about 5.5 hours.
Do you have a track up near home that you were able to go to and train on, or anything like that?
No, my dad works in LA though, so I actually get to race at all the SoCal tracks. But I believe there's a couple tracks in Washington, and there's a couple in Oregon, but I haven't actually been to any of them. It's mostly the tracks in California. My bikes usually stay in California where my dad works, so that I come down with him so I can train.
That's cool.
Okay, I've got one last question, and then we're gonna wrap it up. But like Tony, for example, in the Superbike class, if you talk to him, he'd say that Wayne Rainey's like it was his hero when he was growing up. Obviously, you know, some of the early 20s guys might say that Nicky Hayden was their hero growing up. Who's a hero to a 14-year-old road racer at this point?
For me right now, I'm not sure really. It's probably still Rossi. I've always been a Rossi guy, and before when Nicky was in MotoGP, it was Nicky. So Nicky,
Rossi's your guy.
Rossi, Nicky, and I like Dovey.
Okay, my second question is, if your dad hadn't have told you, would you have known who Wayne Rainey was?
Yeah, I always liked the 500cc days. Like I play the 500cc video games like on MotoGP 17. I always prefer to play the old school stuff.
Okay, there you go. Because I see you talking to Wayne, and I know he's fond of you, and he's obviously impressed with your talent. So it's nice that you've hung out and got to know him a little bit.
Yep, I like Wayne. He's a great dude.
Yeah, he's a good guy. But anyways, guys, I think we're going to wrap this thing up now and let Rocco get out of the truck and go finish his day. So I appreciate you coming on, and we look forward to seeing you here at Laguna Seca in 3 weeks or so. And Sean, I'll be talking to you, obviously. And you guys have a good rest of your day. And again, we'll see you in Northern California, Rocco.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing
you,
Rocco. Thanks for being on with us. We enjoyed talking to you. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
All right, no worries. Be a good boy. Right. We'll see you guys later.
Party hard.
Thank you.